Hi, welcome back again to my channel. So this will be our next topic for gender and society. So we are still on the theoretical approaches to gender development. So we are already done discussing about the biological approach in the gender development, interpersonal theory, of course, and also the psychological theory approach for gender development. Now, we are now going to focus more on the cultural approach when it comes to gender development. Okay. Now, as you can see here, a third group of theories focuses on understanding gender from a cultural or cross-cultural perspective. Cultural scholars do not necessarily dispute biological and interpersonal factors. It means that they do not really disagree or they do not really necessarily support, but they do assume that these are qualified by the influence of culture because it incorporates other theories. The cultural perspective is a particularly comprehensive approach to understanding what gender means in any society at a specific time. So it's like the combination of the interpersonal factors and biological factors as well. But you will ask yourselves, or there will be a question about this, like how would a culture affect your biological approach, or how would a culture affect your biological development when it comes to gender, where in fact biology is constant. It cannot just really be changed because it's highly genetic. Okay. Now, we are going to discuss more about it. So these are the two theories, the psychological theories of gender, anthropology and symbolic interactionism. Now, for anthropology, anyone who has been outside the United States knows that traveling prompts you to learn not only about other countries, but also about your own. Yes, that's true. So it doesn't mean that when you go out of the Philippines, it's not just you learning from that country, but also you are learning about yourself. Like, how are you going to adapt? What is your initial reaction? How are you going to respond to foreign culture? Okay, when confronted with different values and ways of doing things in a foreign culture, you see the norms of your own society. That's true, because you will only see the norms of your society when you are oriented to a different norm or culture, because there will be a comparison there. In the Philippines, we do like this, but here in States, we do things like this. So you can really compare two different cultural norms because you are already exposed to two different culture as well. Okay. Um, this holds true of gender. Our views of gender in 21st century America are clarified by considering what it means elsewhere, how other cultures view gender, and how women and men in other cultures express gendered identities. Perhaps the most important lesson we can draw from the anthropological studies is that cultures profoundly shape gender identity. Whatever genetic influences exist, it is the society we are socialized in that shapes our genetic endowments. For instance, okay, boys as well as girls in most cultures show tendency to nurture and to be aggressive. What differs is the extent to which particular cultures encourage this quality in children of each sex. So as you can see here, I've mentioned before that there will be a question like how would a culture affect your biological aspects when it comes to gender development? Actually, there are a lot of examples there. For example, um, the Australian Aboriginal fathers, like the Australian natives, okay, um, they have no say in their daughter's marriage. Okay, for them that is up to their mothers. Okay, not unlike in other genders that the father will really decide who their daughters will marry with. Okay, the Tahitian men. Okay, the Tahitian men that is a tribe as well. Okay, tend to be gentle, mild-tempered, and non-aggressive, and it is entirely acceptable for them to really cry, show fear, and express pain. Okay, not unlike in other norms that men should not be like that. Okay. Also, another example is a number of Samoan males, okay, continue the traditional practices of tattooing their bodies from waist to below the knees as a means of marketing the transition from childhood to manhood. Okay. A man or a male is not considered a man until he has undergone the painful process of extensive tattooing. Okay. So another example for this one is the what do you call it, villages in the Dominican Republic. Okay, so we are now going to focus more on that question. How did genetics affect, or how did culture affected the genetics when it comes to gender development? Well, in fact, it's genetics, it's biological. Okay, so for Dominican Republic, there is a village in Dominican Republic where it is common. Okay, it is common for males to be born with an descended testes and an underdeveloped penis. So it's not really fully developed. It's not fully descended. Okay, like the typical genitalia of a male. Okay, because this condition is not rare. It means it's normal for them to have that condition. It's not really rare for them. Okay. Of course, the society, since it's not really abnormal and it's normal for them, the society doesn't regard it as abnormal. Okay. Instead, boys born with this condition are raised as conditional girls who wear dresses, okay, and are treated as girls. So as you can see there, that is how a certain culture could affect your biological standing, your biological features. Again, everyone always remember that there is always a thin line between normal and abnormal. What's norm for you might not be norm for me, and what's norm for me might not be norm for you. And that's why the cultural theories of gender, especially in anthropology, really focuses on culture based. It means that your gender development can really be affected by whatever your culture is. It may sound so primitive, it may sound so laid back, but that's really true because culture are passed from one generation to another generation. There might be some revisions there, or there might be some changes there, or upgrade or progress, but still there is still this root of the cultural aspect of whatever or whoever we are as of the moment. Okay, so that's why cultures are also really, really a very big benefactor of your gender identity as of the moment. Okay, so for symbolic interactionism claims that through communication with others, we learn who we are and what that means in our culture. Okay, so learning gender occurs as others define children by sex and link to sex to socially expectations or to social expectations of gender. You are mommy's helper in the kitchen. Mothers may say to daughters, telling young girls that it is appropriate for them to be involved in domestic activities. Again, this is cultural. Okay, when young boys carry in packages after shopping, parents often praise them by saying, "You're such a strong little man." This links strength with being a male. So, the basic concept of symbolic interactionism is the word role. Role. Okay. So, even though you are not yet developed, even though you don't know your gender yet, or your gender identity, or your gender activity, let's just say by yourself or from yourself, since you were given a role already as per the culture, as a male you will do this. This is expected from you because this is part of the norm of our culture, that as a male you do this, you do that. As a female, this is your role because as part of our Norman culture, women are expected to do this and be like this and to do that. So it means that their gender development is not really from their core, or is not really from their interpersonal, but it is still interpersonal, by the way. But to be more vague at the same time, it is really more on culture. Okay, so even though you are not yet fully identified as, in the genderly approach, man or women, or male or female, of course, your culture already gave you a role. Okay, your norm in your culture already gave you a norm, and from that role, should I say, sorry, from that role, you will already harness and foster your own gender identity. Okay, so an important contribution to a cultural theory of gender is the concept of role, specifically roles for women and men. A role is a set of expected behaviors and the values associated with them. That's what I'm trying to say earlier. Role is really the main point of symbolic interactionism. Okay, now roles are external to individuals because a society defines roles in general ways that transcends particular individuals. Roles are assigned to individuals by the society as a whole. Okay, again, roles are assigned to individuals by the society as a whole. Thus, for each of us, there are certain roles that society expects us to fulfill because of society's definition of us. Again, it's about the norm of your culture. What's normal for you? What a normal man or a normal boy should do, in particularly within that culture. What a woman or a girl should do, or what norm should they follow, particularly on that culture of that proximity zone. Okay, so symbolic interactionism focuses more on the role side, that you harness, you foster, you develop your gender identity by your culture's norm. Okay, all right. Now, a second important dimension of role is that it is internalized. Okay, for social specifications of behaviors to be effective, individuals must internalize them. At very young ages, girls understand that they are supposed to be nice, put others' needs ahead of their own, and be nurturing. Whereas boys understand that they are supposed to take command and assert themselves, because that is the role given on that certain culture. But again, do not feel offended about this one, because again, this is culture based. Okay, for us Filipinos, we might feel offended about this one, yes, but on other cultures all around the world, this might be their norm, and they will never feel offended or feel discriminated on this kind of statement. Okay, all right. So to sum up everything up, okay, so cultural theories broaden our understandings by showing how social expectations and values about the sexes are systematically taught to individuals. Okay, cultural views of gender include two related research traditions. From anthropology, we gain insight into the arbitrary and variable nature of gender by seeing the different views of men and women held in diverse cultures. Symbolic interactionist theory offers an understanding of the key role of communication in socializing new members into the understandings and values of a given culture. So before we end this content or this video, I have one question for all of you there. Do you think that you were molded by your cultural norm, or you were molded by what you've seen, or were you molded by the rewards and punishment that your parents gave with you? Comment in the comment section your answers. And again, thank you so much for watching my video. Please subscribe to my channel. And of course, do not forget to like this one. Thank you.